Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here. I am Peter Savio. I'm a local affordable housing developer. I'm a local boy, born Hilo, raised Oahu, St. Louis High School, University of Hawaii, majored in real estate, one of the first college-trained realtors in Hawaii. I do want to apologize because in every presentation I do, I always manage to offend somebody. I have a very different view of real estate. I have a very different view of our affordable housing problem and the solution. I'm probably the only person who believes it's solvable. I'm probably the only one who believes we can accomplish this in probably a 10-year period. But I'm going to go in this process. I want to explain the history of our housing crisis. One of the big problems we have, people do not understand how we got into the problem we are. And we can't get out unless we correct the mistakes we've made. I'm going to identify the problem, then I'm going to give you the solution, and if time permits, we'll do questions and answers. Basically, there's two things that I want to start off just so everyone understands. I am not going to change the housing market we have now. I'm going to keep that as is. I'm not going to worry about the developers and the $1 million units in Kaka'ako and the $25 million beach home they're building, whatever. I'm going to leave them there. As part of my program, when I get towards the end, you'll realize, but we're only going to leave it there if it benefits us, if it helps the local guys, and that's the key to allowing that to remain. The other one is the normal response in this town whenever you come up with a new idea is to say it's unconstitutional. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Senator Brent Hawaii introduced his bill on housing. He hit exactly what the problem was. My own experience with this is when I first came up with an idea a few years ago to pay for mass transit by charging a tax to the property owners. And I was told it's unconstitutional. They went to the dean at the law school and he said, right, Mr. Savio's suggestion to tax is unconstitutional. Now, if he had used the word impact fees, it's constitutional. So when somebody tells you it's not constitutional, take it with a grain of salt. They say that because most people go, oh, forget it, too complex, don't understand, don't want to deal with it. So you're going to hear a lot of that, and it's not true. A lot of the programs I'm talking about are presently in operation in this state or other states, have been used here. We've checked the number with the constitutional expert at the university, and they are allowed, especially done in the context of government. Now, to start off, since a lot of people get confused by real estate, I'm not going to use real estate as my first example. I want to use an 18-wheeler. And there's two 18-wheelers. One is our real estate market as it is now, and that sucker is bombing down the freeway, doing 100 miles an hour and just going like crazy. Our affordable housing market has 18 flat tires. Ain't moving, ain't going anywhere. And what happens is the governor says, oh, I'm going to come up with this special program, I'm going to waive fees, I'm going to do all these wonderful things. The mayor says, you're right, I'm going to fix up the building permit issues, I'm going to help. All they did was fill one tire on our car or our truck. It's not going to make a difference. Gets them a lot of free publicity, gets them a pat on the back. Everybody says, great, we're doing something. They know it's going to fail. This is not a one-step solution. This is 20, 30 changes we have to make to be successful at getting our people into home ownership. Now, I want to read a quote that I stumbled on 3 minutes after Bill called and asked me to speak. And I think this is God talking to me because I was looking for a title to my speech. And this speech I've given a couple times, and it was titled originally 100,000 Homes in 10 Years. But this quote touched my heart. And it said, housing prices are up, trust is down, culture and heritage feel threatened, and Lahaina broke our heart. What can we do to bring back our soul? And that really talks about what housing has done to our community. It's devastated it, it's destroyed it. We have to understand housing is not just about housing. Because of the pressure we put on our people, our workers, the lack of housing, affordable housing, is the reason for social ills such as drug addiction, crime, mental illness, abuse, alcoholism, suicides, all tied to the unreasonable pressure we put on workers where they need 2 and 3 jobs just to rent a unit. It shouldn't be that way. If our market was working, one job would be enough to buy a home. And that has to be the goal we're aiming for. Now, it's important to understand when you talk about real estate, we all assume we want real estate because of appreciation. That is not true. That is the problem. We're looking at greed. We're looking at money. We're looking at appreciation. The reason you buy real estate is to lock in the biggest monthly cost of living, housing. When you buy real estate, you lock in your housing costs for 30 years. It's not going to change. Your mortgage payment's going to remain constant. During that 30 years, your payments are going to go up. I can do the projection going forward. You guys won't believe the numbers, so I'm going back in time. In 1960, if you bought a house, it was expensive back then. Same problem we have today. People could not afford the down payment. People could not afford the monthly payment. Parents had to help, had to co-sign. A house cost $25,000. The monthly payment was $250 a month. If you had bought that house and you're living in it today, you only paid $29,000 in interest. If you rented that house up until today, you paid $1 million to $1.5 million in rent. So you can negotiate all the pay raises you want. You can improve the wages of your workers, but they're not getting the benefit unless they're a homeowner. The benefit is going to the wealthy landlord. We're in this treadmill where our people are just feeding their wealth, giving their wealth away to other people. It's important to realize renting, to me, is evil. Our government right now is looking at 2030 measures. They're all excited about it at the Capitol because they want to do all of these rental projects. When they do a rental project, what they're telling you is, we're going to take all of the workers and we're going to give their benefits away to the mainland building owner. Rental buildings are evil. Rental buildings should only be allowed if they're tenant-owned rental buildings. If the tenant owns the rental building, it's the same, almost all the same benefits of ownership. Once they pay off their share of the mortgage, their payment drops. When they sell the unit, they may not get the appreciation depending on how it's structured, but the benefits are much greater. All of the wealth would stay with our people rather than being shipped out. Every time the government tells you they're going to subsidize a rental unit, they're telling you we're going to spend $10 million over the next 60 years for one family. That's what the cost is be going forward. That means your kids, my kids, our grandkids are going to be working to subsidize the failures of our government to do the affordable housing now. If we had done this in 1960, we had built the affordable housing, we would not have the problem we're having today. My program does not change what we're doing, it changes who gets the financial benefits. And that's important because real estate is about financial benefits and huge benefits. Right now, the state gives away all of our benefits. Now, the market has been distorted over the last 60 years. So when you see studies and you get reports and our legislature makes decisions, they're not basing it on reality. They're basing it on the distorted market we're in. So the first thing we have to do is remove the distortion so we know what reality will be. And it's really, really easy to do because all you have to do is realize, one, we know how to build houses. In my lifetime, we have built 400,000 homes. 50% of those homes were built for under 200,000. Another 25% were built under 400,000, and the last 20% under 600,000, or right around 600,000. Yet all of them cost $1 million or more today. So the problem is not building homes. Our problem is keeping the price affordable. It's not a supply issue. The more houses we build, the worse the problem gets because they're being sold to outside groups, outside buyers, Asian buyers, etc. Our problem is demand. So the first step is we need to correct our market to get a realistic number. So here's the correction, and it's so simple. You define the real estate market. A real estate market is local in nature, and by definition, homes are built so people in that community can afford to buy a home. What they're saying is the price of a home is tied to the wages paid in a community. And that is true in every real estate market where there is no distortion. Hawaii has all kinds of distortion. You've got Section 8, you've got military, you've got outside buyers. All of these people are into our market, they're buying real estate, they're distorting the reality. So the question becomes, what is reality for us? What is our target for our people? And Maui answered the question, because Maui was going to do a study on housing, and they said, Peter, what can we do? What do you recommend? And I said, I want you to tell me what a local buyer can pay. I know what the mainland guy pays. I know what the prices are. What is affordable for the average local guy? And they came back and said, the local guys can buy a house for $450,000. That means condos would be priced in the $200,000 range, and we'd have houses between $200,000 and $600,000, apartments, etc. So that's the price. They also told us the mainland guy pays $1.2 million, and they tell us the Asian guy pays $1.3 million. Basically, the outside demand has distorted value by $700,000 to $800,000. You can complain about our building department, you can complain about our government employees, but they account for only 5–10% of the problem. It's minuscule. So when our governor and our mayor tell us they're going to help solve that problem, you got to respond, hell, it's not enough, because it isn't. We have to stop the mainland buyers. And I want to give the Singapore example. And it drives me nuts because I used this example about 40 years ago, 1980, they're around at the legislature where I talked about Singapore because they're 95% owner-occupied. But they misunderstood what I was saying. What they didn't understand, they became a nation in the mid-60s. I don't remember the exact date. But they came to Hawaii because we were so successful at building homes once we became a state. They had checked the whole United States, the whole world, and we had done the best job at building homes and meeting the housing needs of our people. And they came here and said, what are you doing? Now, we kind of lucked out because the premier happened to know a local architect or engineer. They were college buddies or something. I was fortunate because I was all of, 12 years old or something, but my mom was invited. And of course, everyone in town knew I was a real estate junkie, so they let me come along and listen. And it was interesting because we're explaining why we're successful. In the 50s, the federal government came to Hawaii and said, you got to modernize your land leases. The land leases you have cannot be financed. The federal government will not allow FHA, VA. We won't allow federal institutions to buy your mortgages. You need to modernize your lease. The estates got together, they modernized their lease. It was now financeable with 30-year mortgages, FHA, VA, and our leasehold market boomed. All of Hawaii Kai used to be pig farms, got developed. Hawaii Kai, Kailua, Kaneohe, Ewa, Pearl City, all leasehold land. So a modern lease allowed the market to boom. The next one is we said we also passed a condo law. Hawaii was the first state in the union to do a condo. And that now allowed us to build high-rise buildings more efficiently and sell them off as individual units. Then they also talked about the fact we built with concrete. And had nothing to do with real estate, but it fascinated me because I assumed buildings were always built with concrete. And it turns out, no, it was a relatively new concept in the 60s. We were building with piles. Singapore's an island nation. They had to use piles. They wanted to use concrete construction, so they were fascinated with that. Part of the whole idea is we wanted to build homes. We wanted to create wealth. We wanted to build a high-tech society. We wanted to have high incomes and jobs. We wanted top schools. All of this was Hawaii's goal. Singapore went back to Singapore, and they fulfilled Hawaii's dream. They're 95% owner-occupied. They're one of the wealthiest nation states in the world. They have all kinds of jobs. They're high tech. They have high paying jobs. Their kids grow up and can live in Singapore. They can get jobs in Singapore. And how did Singapore do it? They did what Hawaii was doing. They took our model and they committed to it and they succeeded. We have to go back and use the Singapore example. Not what Singapore did, what Hawaii did and what Singapore copied. So what is the solution to our problem with housing? The first thing is we have to look at our engine. And the engine is our government. And our government is not working. Our engine in our truck ain't working. Ain't gonna work. It's been working, or they've been trying to fix this sucker for 60 years. And they failed us. They failed you, they failed the workers, they failed the people. But I want to show you why they failed. It's not what you think. I'm going to use examples that are not real estate, and I hope you realize, oh my God, that's why everything's so expensive. That's why we have failed. I want to take mass transit as the first example. Mass transit could have been free to a state of Hawaii. Your children, your grandchildren, you would not have to pay a penny in taxes to build mass transit. And all the city and state had to do was to assess an impact fee on the property around the train station. When the head of mass transit first came to me complaining about we didn't have enough money, I told him it could be free. I told him how to do it. He did all the calculations, said, oh my God, Peter, so obvious, right in front of us, this is the solution. Made the recommendation to the board, got buried, never came back, never responded to. And the solution is, the land around the station, as an example, was worth $50 a square foot. As soon as they said they're going to do mass transit, it went up to $200 a foot. Then the city calls and says, Peter, we want to do all these special things for affordable housing. We're going to increase the density. We're going to reduce parking. We're going to allow more height. And I said, don't do it. As soon as you do that, you raise the price of the land. Oh, no, this is going to help. So they raise it. So the land around mass transit station now goes for $500 to $1,000 a square foot. Originally, it started at $50 to $200 a square foot. So we raised the price of the land so we can build more affordable housing. It's asinine, it's backwards, it didn't work, it increased the cost, and it's going to continue to increase the cost of living. So all those pay raises you negotiate are wasted on this type of giving away value to wealthy landowners. The people of Hawaii, the workers of Hawaii, deserve that value. Photovoltaic, one of my favorites. We have photovoltaic. Great idea, preserve the environment, all the carbon, all those issues are wonderful. Hawaii is the only state where they do it. They do all kinds of photovoltaic, but we give the income and value away. Our photovoltaic farms are owned by mainland guys. They're owned by REITs. I'm doing a small photovoltaic farm. They're going to pay me $4 million a year. I'm doing community solar, so that $4 million is going to flow to all of the people who rent and cannot afford to put photovoltaic on a roof. So I'm doing a photovoltaic condo. But the point is, we're sending out hundreds of millions of dollars every year. That if we, you as a union, me as an individual, if the people of Hawaii insist, photovoltaic should only be allowed if it's community owned. If the power generated subsidizes our people. If we had done that, we would not have electric bills today. Think about your workers and your families. All of a sudden, an extra $300, $400, $500 a month because we were smart enough to keep the photovoltaic benefits to the people of Hawaii. It reduces our cost of living. It means more money gets spent here, more jobs get created, more tax revenue is generated. The key is it's a $500 payment or $500 pay raise for everyone who had photovoltaic. Remember, photovoltaic in our present system is a program for the wealthy. It only works if you own a roof. Everyone who rents, everyone who lives in a condo, which tend to be our senior citizens, they're left out completely. The PUC, the government, Hawaiian Electric, they do not care. They do not care. Because I've pointed it out to them constantly, and it's like, well, too bad. No one else is complaining about it, so nothing gets done. The other one is rental buildings. Rental buildings absolutely should not be built. About 10, 20 years ago, the city and state decided to sell their rental projects. They came to me and said, Peter, we want to sell the project. I said, great, I'll buy them, I'll do a condo conversion, I'll sell them to the tenants at cost. Be a great program, the tenants will own it, all of the value will stay here, all the wealth stays here. Oh, they love the idea. RFP comes out, cannot do condo. Have to be a developer that has 5 other projects like this under their belt, which meant no developer in Hawaii qualified. We had to team up with a mainland developer. You wonder why our politicians get contributions from mainland developers, why they get money from mainland guys, because we're giving away our future, we're giving away our wealth. Every rental building will generate hundreds of millions of dollars to some mainland owner. So again, we have to look at rental projects and allow for rental projects only if they're going to be owned locally. I think I lost my place. See what happens when I get excited. Okay, so all of our buildings should be tenant-owned. My aunt lived in a tenant-owned building in the mainland, and what happened is, when you move in, your security deposit is your down payment. You pay the same rent, but that rent also covers a mortgage payment. But because you're a tenant owner, your rent or your mortgage payment stays the same. At the end of 30 years, the loan's paid off, that your rent goes down. She got ready to move out, and so my aunt was like, okay, I'm gonna get my payment on my security deposit and 5%, she got $4,000 back. That's all she got. But, single woman, living in New York, had $2 million in savings because she had locked in her monthly payment for 40, 50 years, and all of her pay raises she was able to keep. She then moved into a care home and led a good life. So again, it can be done. I think that's the part that we have to remember. Now, my mother had a client who just passed away. She bought a home from my mother for $25,000. A single woman living in Hawaii. She just passed away. $2 million in her savings account. $400,000 a year in income from her real estate investments. As she bought her unit, she was able to refinance, invest. That's what every single employee, every single worker, every single resident of Hawaii should have been able to do if they were homeowners. If they were renting, all of that wealth went to someone else. That's one person. Think about if we had 100, 200, 300,000 people like that. Everyone in our society should have been able to do that. Okay. The next one is REITs. We tried to get REITs taxed. REITs are real estate investment trust. They own every shopping center, every hotel, every industrial park, every large apartment building, every office building, every shopping center in Hawaii. They pay no taxes, no income taxes, right? So we want to tax the REITs. And the mayor has vetoed it twice, or the governor has vetoed it twice. And the legislature told me, when are you going to give up? We're going to pass it because the people want it, and we're going to have the governor veto it. And I said, oh, forget it. I give up already. So I'm a warrior who was defeated on that one. But we should tax them. And they say it's only $10 million. I don't care about the income tax. If it's $1, I want it. If it's 10 million, I want it. I want the capital gains tax when they sell that asset. Ela Moana Shopping Center, they bought for $150 million. It's probably worth $5-6 billion today. Imagine if we tax them when they sell it. And that's true for all the hotels and everything. They're selling them now, and they're paying the tax in the state where the people that own the stock live. So they're paying it. They're just not paying it to us. We have to change one sentence in our tax code to do it. And everyone is nervous. It shouldn't matter. Our market is so strong, they are going to stay. They're not going to pull out. They threaten everything. One other state did it, and the REIT said they were going to pull out. The REIT investment actually went up. Now we're going to talk. The other one is income and property taxes. Big problem in this state. We have the highest taxes, but we have the lowest property taxes. So basically our low property taxes encourage people to come, especially from out of state, because they're not paying their fair share. So on property taxes, I think the thing to do do is to actually raise property taxes 4 to 5 times, so that everyone has to pay 5 times the property taxes. Since mainland buyers own 30 to 40% of our market in various communities, their 30 or 40% will represent 150 to 200% of the taxes that are presently collected. We take that tax money and we give all the local guys home exemption, 100%. We pay no property tax. Right off the bat, we reduced our cost of living. We now have the mainland guys paying their fair share. Our people have benefited. You've given them another $200 or $300 a month pay raise because they don't have to pay the taxes. People who rent, their owner of the building doesn't get the benefit. It goes to the tenant. So the people who are renting will get a check every month to represent what the taxes would have been. Now the solution. The first thing we have to do is we have to set up a new local Kama'aina market. That is going to take probably 2 or 3 years with our legislature. So we're sort of stuck for 2 or 3 years setting up the master plan. But there are 3 programs that are already controlled by wages. There are 3 programs we can immediately commit to. One is Hawaiian Homes. We can build 20, 30,000 units on Hawaiian Homes. No mainland buyer can touch it. No Asian buyer can touch it. It's tied to wages automatically because you got to live in Hawaii, right? It fulfills our obligation to the Hawaiian community. Remember now, 100 years, they've built 9,000 homes. 90 homes a year is what Hawaiian Homes has built. The problem with Hawaiian Homes, they will fail in everything they're doing because when the federal government required a new lease, the only estate that did not accept the new lease was Hawaiian Homes. Hawaiian Homes gives no value to their lease. If you have a Bishop Estate lease and it's given to you free and you go to a bank, you do not need a down payment to build your home. That lease is worth $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. Hawaiian Home lease is the most valuable lease that exists because your rent is $1, 99 years. It's almost as good as fee simple. If we change their lease, if we made it comparable to a Bishop Estate or Liliuokalani lease, all of a sudden every Native Hawaiian would be a millionaire. Because right now their properties are only valued as a house, no value to the land. It also means now every Native Hawaiian who cannot buy because they have no down payment now has a down payment. We've solved the problem simply by modernizing the lease. They're going to tell you it's unconstitutional, we can't make the change, it's shabai. The federal government asked them in 1950s to change their lease. They refused. Everywhere else took the modern lease. Does our government care? No. Do they care that the Native Hawaiian is being punished for this? They don't. They keep on getting sued, they keep on spending out hundreds of millions of dollars, but they could end the suffering of that community. Those poor people have homes they can't even repair because when they go to get the house appraised, it has no value because it's a 60-year-old house or a 50-year-old house. Houses depreciate. Land and leases appreciate. If they don't have the lease or the land, there's no value to them. The other one we can do right away is Section 8. Years ago, I testified at a public hearing, and I said Section 8 was a ripoff. It's a program to take money from our poor and our government and give it to wealthy apartment building owners or real estate owners. Senator Crozier heard it, and he called me the next day and said, Peter, I was up all night. My God, you hit me in the heart with that. You're so right. It's not fair. I talked to Senator Inouye. He loves the idea. He wants to introduce it. Do you agree? I said, absolutely. 5 years later, I get a call from Senator Crozier. He says, Peter, it's approved. Now, I'd forgotten about the conversation. What happened? He got the program approved. Who got what approved? Senator Inouye got your program approved. Section 8 is now a rental program. It's been a rental program since 1985. We could use Section 8 to put our most vulnerable owners or tenants into home ownership. We could have started in 85. We could probably have 30, 40, 50,000 people now owners. And if we'd started in 85, their houses would be free and clear. So we had the opportunity and we failed. Our government did nothing to encourage it. In fact, they told me, Peter, we can't do that. Why? Well, because we're going to help the poorest guys to own a house. Everyone else is going to be mad at us. Well, come up with programs for everybody else. Oh, no, we can't do that, we can't do that. So anyway, Section 8 we can do. We need to fund Section 8, and in most cases it's nothing more than us guaranteeing or saying we're gonna help with the down payment. The other one is rental housing. All kinds of legislation right now to build rental housing. All the rental housing we're building is gonna be owned by some mainland guy. Gonna be owned by a mainland REIT. So here we go again. We subsidize the building. We give them extra zoning, which creates value. We waive property taxes. We waive all kinds of fees. We put hundreds of millions of dollars into rent subsidy over the life of the building. They build it for $100 million. They sell it for $400 million 30, 40 years later. They take the money and leave, and what did we get? Absolutely nothing. We had a place for our people to live. Not even really live, we housed them. We stored our people there, and we did not give them the value. We did not keep the value for the state. If we retained ownership of that building, we would own the building, the people's payments would be less, it would be comparable to ownership, and we are solving our housing problem. We are solving people being forced out. So those are the three things we could do immediately, relatively easy to implement, but again, inertia on the part of government. The community has to understand what's going on. So this new local market I'm talking about, one, we need the government's commitment. We ain't gonna get it. All the architects, all the developers, all the owners of these buildings, all the nonprofits, they don't want me to rock the boat. They don't want to see this happen because it destroys what they've got. That's why I'm saying I'm going to let them keep what they have right now. I'm not going to mess with them. But once we get our markets established, they're going to pay the price. They've got to help subsidize what we're doing. In this new market, a developer does not earn a 20% profit. He earns a 5% profit. He is a developer for a fee. The state will guarantee the loan. The state will put up the money. All he has to do is put the deal together, build the building, and then it will go to the whatever trust we set up to hold the land into perpetuity for Hawaii's people. Okay, so it can be fee simple ownership, it can be leasehold, it doesn't matter. The key is it's locally owned, and not by a wealthy insurance company or not by a local wealthy guy, owned by the tenants. Okay, so we can do that. Developer financing. The state has to come up with a program that will finance 105% of the project, since the developer needs to put no money. Now at first everyone was puzzled by this, but I want to remind you what's going to happen. Every single labor union, every single contractor, every single engineer, every single architect is going to become a developer. They're going to put a team together, a hui. They're going to go out and say, hey, let's build a building. We only make 5%, but you can get your architectural fee, you're gonna get your construction profit, you're gonna get your plumbing profit, so let's get together, let's build buildings. What I just described is 1960. That's how we did it. Except back then you needed money. Well, today we're so poor, we don't have that money. In the old days, our people had money. We have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck because we failed them over the last 60 years. Again, appreciation on all units will be tied to wages. If wages go up, double, price will double. If wages go up 25%, price will go up 25%. Remember, appreciation is not as big of a wealth creator as we think, and we should be willing to sacrifice it. Because guess what? Who's the local guy going to sell it to? His kids, his son, his daughter. They're not going to sell it to the mainland guy because now they're going to be able to stay. So this is a market where locals are helping locals through the process. You give up the appreciation. This house will always be affordable. 1,000 years from now, it will still be affordable because it's tied to the wages the business or the community is earning. The restrictions on the buyer. So again, the buyer has to be a resident, has to be a first-time buyer. I'm talking about when you enter the market. Once you're in the market, as it grows, you're going to want to move up from a studio to a 2-bedroom to a house, then eventually back to a 1-bedroom in retirement. So you're going to have a huge market where people are moving within this market, okay? So there's a restriction. You got to be a resident, a taxpayer. You need an asset restriction. The mainland guy shows up and says, oh, I'm going to live in Hawaii. In our community, you say you're going to live here, you're a resident immediately. Stupidity. We should have some requirements that say, no, you got to be here for 1 year, you got to be a taxpayer, something. Okay, you got to be 18 years of old, citizen, etc. All of those are restrictions we presently have on affordable housing. The big one is in Kaka'aku, they kept on telling us everyone was a resident. Majority of residents bought. That's because the guy got off the airplane and said, I want to be a resident, so that made him a resident. Even though he doesn't work here, even though he's working remotely, even though he's paying taxes in another state, we get picking him up as a resident. The new zoning, I would suggest we have zoning that is residential, owner, occupant only. Apartment zoning, owner, occupant only. Make it very clear to everybody, these new projects are being built for the people of Hawaii. They're being built for residents. Cannot do Airbnb, cannot do vacation rentals. I don't even particularly want investors buying in the market, because our market is going to get everyone who has a job into ownership, and it can be done for the majority of the people relatively easily if we get the prices at the right level, and for others we're going to have to work a little harder. But we need to make it very clear we are closing the door on the foreign buyers, the mainland retirees, etc. When they come, they just can't move into our market. Building, again, I talked about we have to have the rent-to-own buildings. We got to reform the PUC and the electric company and this whole idea. All future photovoltaic farms got to be community-owned, got to subsidize our electric bill. In fact, we should probably condemn all of the present farms, take them back and keep the income. And I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars leaving our state probably every month because of what we pay out for the windmills and for the photovoltaic farms. It's killing us. Property tax and income tax reform, no question. I already talked about property taxes, where we need to reform it, where the mainland guys are paying our property taxes and the local guys are not paying property taxes. Again, it can be done. Zoning concessions, I think we got to be careful with ADUs, Ohana units, etc. Because as soon as you say you can build an extra unit, you add value to the land, you increase the value of the land. So if we're going to say that, we have to say you can do it, but it falls into the affordable housing. It has to have a restriction. It can only be rented at wage level, whatever the wage level would be. It can only be sold if it's being sold based on wages, so it will always be an affordable unit. I also would advise against you guys pushing that much because of the Lahaina fire. What they don't realize, when houses are built, subdivisions are built, they're spaced for fire protection. As soon as you start adding a second floor, you increase the fire risk. But if you add a second and third building on the same lot, you're increasing the potential fire risk. Your roads weren't designed to have all that extra traffic. People will get trapped if we're in another windstorm with a fire burning, etc. So again, any new building like this should be concrete steel roof. In fact, the existing home, we should have a requirement they put on a steel roof. The problem with that fire was roofs catching fire, and of course the house too. But anyway, just think about that, because it is part of the issue. So we end up where we started. Housing prices are up, trust is down. Culture and heritage feel threatened, and Lahaina broke our heart. With record numbers leaving the state, what can we do to bring back the soul? To that prayer, I would like to add, let's bring back our people home. Let's return our soul with aloha. Let's take care of those who are struggling to stay. We can do it. Let's follow our student. Let's follow Singapore. Remember, Singapore is not leading. We led. We stumbled and failed. But they proved we had a solid concept. We need to go back to the 60s, and we need to live with that. Thank you so much. Any questions, or did I run over time? I'm Portuguese at heart, you know, so.
Peter, do you have any questions for Peter?
Tony, something Peter had mentioned earlier in private, but he said that if any other unions are wanting him to
Yeah, if you have union groups you'd like me to speak to, I'm happy to speak to them on this topic, because I really think people need to understand it. If we have knowledge about what can be done, it's hard for people to say no, and we need to get the word out. We need to get people to understand, guys, there is a solution. It can be done. Everyone thinks you can't do it. I have been doing it for 50 years right now. I've been selling homes as low as 20% of median income. I've got people buying properties earning $20,000, $30,000, and I go up to 80, 100%. As a rule, I don't go above that. I try to stay as low as I can, but I'm a cost-plus developer. I'm the only one in the state, and I might be the only one in the nation, but that's a separate point. The other thing I do, which you guys might be interested in, is I do have a home buying seminar I do for people that is really a college class in real estate dealing with the financial reasons for buying and pointing out that if you're paying $2,000 in rent, you can buy a house for $2,005 or maybe even $2,009 and end up paying less than what you paid in rent. Because people don't understand the benefits of ownership, the tax benefits, the government subsidies. But I'm happy to do both classes for the local market, for the local guys.
Okay, I think if anybody has that request for Mr. Savio to talk to their membership, is it okay if we contact you through Bill?
Bill, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't.
Okay, great. Stephen, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
More of just a point. We'd love to entertain you, Peter. We'd definitely like to have you come.
Oh, thank you.
Address our membership. And are you going to be running for office?
Nobody would support me.
And then I don't know about Local 5, but maybe Kate Watanabe would want to talk to you.
Yeah.
He's the financial
Listen,
secretary.
I'm 75 years old. I had my shot at trying to get the government changed. I've given up with the government. I'm now going to take it to the people, because I think that's the only way we're going to get the government to change. We've got some really good people in office, but they all wear blinders. They're all told what to do, and they follow the company line. And you try to convince them otherwise, and they'll tell you, oh, Peter, it's great, but I don't want to rock the boat. So they're not leaders, they're followers. So we got to go out and we got to shake the tree a little bit.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Peter. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. Most people don't want to hear me. So, no, I'm joking. Thank you.